Visit us at Eduvvo. Thank you for calling Eduvvo.
Okay guys, so let's start with basics of Dart. Yep, the good stuff. So I have opened my Visual Studio Code. As I told you guys earlier that I will be using Visual Studio Code, but if you want you can use Android Studio as well. It's not an issue honestly. But the thing is that Visual Studio Code is way faster. Okay, so once you have opened Visual Studio Code, you have to go to File, Open Folder. And for this course, I have made a folder on desktop itself by the name course. I would recommend you guys to make the folder in any of your drives, C, D, E or whatever the fuck drive you have. Okay, for the sake of this course, I have made it on desktop only because see, the reason why you shouldn't make a folder on desktop is because it's not safe, especially if you are making a really important project. Okay, so all you need to do is just go to your desktop, right click and create a new folder. And since I've already created it by the name course, I will select this folder. So once I have opened my folder, you can see this little icon here, and this is basically new file icon. I would click, this is the first icon as well. So I would click here and write the name of my file. Now the name of the file cannot be in numbers, so you can write practice. You can add numbers later, but not numbers directly. So practice.dart. Okay, make sure that you add .dart at the end. That makes it a Dart file. Okay, so now if you by chance are not getting this window, then you can just simply click here or press Ctrl B on your keyboard. Now let's quickly see the basic syntax of Dart. Okay, so by default, Dart needs us to have a main function. Now what is a function? And we will learn them as we code. So let's quickly write the main syntax. So main syntax is void main. Now these parentheses and curly brackets. Okay, so void is a return type basically, and main is the name of the function. Listen to me carefully now. So the thing is, let's say there is a machine which when you put raw materials, let's say you put potato from the top and it gives you potato chips from the bottom. So the function of that machine is to make potato chips. Okay, similarly in Dart there are different functions, and by default Dart needs you to have a main function. Now void is the return type, and return type basically what kind of value it will return. For void, it does not return anything. See, Dart is an object-oriented based programming language, and I know that it might seem a little bit confusing what that gibberish was or what return type is. So now let's quickly write one line of code and we will slowly see what a return type is, what a function is, and the other important aspects of Dart. Okay, so let's say in the main function, now these curly brackets is where you will write the code. So I will press enter and let's print the holy command, which is hello. Okay, so I fucked up the spelling there. So hello world. Okay, and each command that you write inside these curly braces has to end with a semicolon. See, if I do not end it with semicolon, then this red line appears. Okay, and you can see what the problem is in the problem section. And you can see that here it is telling you that expected to find a semicolon. So this means that, and it is also giving you can just click on it and it will automatically redirect you to this line. We will see this. See, I will be missing a lot of semicolons and you might be missing these as well. They only get perfect when you practice a lot. So don't worry about the semicolons too much. Let's quickly enter the semicolon. And once you have written the code, you can see that at the top of your file, there is a white dot coming here. So what this basically means is that your file is not saved. Just press Ctrl S to save the file. Okay, and the file is saved. Now make sure that you save your file every single time you write a new line of code or add something or maybe edit something. Okay, now you can just click the play button here, which is basically to run the program. You can also do this run, click here, or you can click here. So when I press that run, it automatically writes start and the file name, and now the hello world is printed. Okay, so why did we write hello world in these double quotes? If you are not coming from a programming background, we use basically double quotes when we want to write a string. A string is basically a sentence, a character, an alphabet or something like that. Okay, for numbers you don't need to use these double quotes. You can directly write a number. Press 8. You have to control S again because you can see that circle coming. So control S. Now it's not coming. Now you can either click run code again, or you can just go here, press the up arrow key and enter, and it will run automatically. And you can see that 8 was printed. Okay, so this is working fine. All right. Now let's quickly look at what are data types. Now data types, as the name suggests, just try to break the word down, right? Data type, which means type of data. So let's say this 8, this is a number, right? So its data, the type of data is a number. For a sentence which we wrote earlier, the type of data was string. So let me quickly show you what these different data types are and how to write them. So we have to first define what type of data type they are. So first write string, because we will be writing a string. And let's say the name of the variable that I'll be using is name equals to, and I will enter my name Shash. Now what is a variable? Variable is basically something that you can assign a value to. Okay, so you can assign value to this variable, and the value should be a string because we have written string here, and the value, as you can see, is Shash. Now you might notice this blue curvy lines coming under your name. Now why is that? So to look at that, we can again go to problems, and you can see here that it is saying that the value of local variable name isn't used. Try removing value. So what is happening is, if you guys are familiar with memory allocation, or maybe you are not, so let me quickly explain you that. Whenever this main command runs, it takes up some space in the RAM. Okay, and it is basically telling us to not define this variable until and unless it is being used in the program. As you can see that I haven't used anywhere this variable name. Okay, the moment, let's say the moment I write here name, those blue lines will go away. So what this basically means is that now I am utilizing it in my program, right? So if I write another, for a number, you write integer. A number is basically called an integer, and here you can give positive, negative values. So for integer, I will say, let's say age, and I am 69 years old. Okay, so you can see again that the blue curvy lines are coming, and this is because I haven't utilized age anywhere. Now if I write print age again, so you can see that the curvy lines go away. And let me just quickly save them and go here, press the up arrow key, enter, and you can see that Shash is also printed and 69 is also printed. Okay, so you can basically see what's going on here. Now let's see what other data types are. Now, okay, what if I want to use a decimal value? Decimal means what if I am 69.5 years old? Now you will see that it is showing me an error. Now let's see what the error is. So here you can see a value of type double can't be assigned to a variable of type int. So double is basically, int is a number and double is a decimal number. So you cannot give an integer a decimal value. So the data type is double for a decimal value. So let's say my height is 164.5 centimeters. Okay, so here you can see that the moment I wrote double, I can now assign it decimal values. Now there are a lot of other data types as well, and another data type is bool, and bool is basically really simple. Boy equals to true. This statement here means that boy is true, which means that I am a boy. Okay, if I wrote here false, this means that I am not a boy. I might be a girl or any non-binary gender. Okay, so bool, we will be using bool in the next video when we do loop. So now finally, and by the way, I hope that you understand why these blue lines are coming, because these two variables are taking unnecessary space. Remove them. But right now, for the sake of as you can see that the code is really small, you really don't really have to remove anything for now. But when your code is like, let's say 1000 lines or multiple files, in that case you want your code to be efficient and clean. So in that case, you usually remove these variables, and VS Code and Dart do a really good job of letting us know which variables are not being used. Now there is one last data type which is important for us, and that is var. So let's say var roll number equals to hello. Let's say 12123 hello. Okay, so basically what var is that we don't have to define. See, let's say for a roll number you don't really know what the value is going to be, so I can either write strings here, or I can directly write an integer, let's say 848, or I can also write 4. Okay, or I can write to true value. So you can use var whenever you are not sure of what the value is going to be, right? Let's say you want the user to print something and you are not really sure what the value will be, so in that case you use var. Right now I will give it a string value. Now there are some other data types as well, such as list. Okay, a list is basically a collection of data. So let me quickly give you an example of a list as well, and then we will move on to printing and string interpolation. Whoa, that was a scary word, I know, right? But don't worry, the concept is actually really easy, like really easy. Okay, so let's quickly look at what lists are. So list is basically collection of data, and let's say I have info. Okay, and you need to end it with semicolon, and you can add here in list, you can add a string. Each element needs to be separated by a comma, by the way. Then I can also write here a number in the list. I can define a double value. I can define a boolean value, and I can also define another list inside. So that is pretty cool, right? So a false is also a boolean value. Boolean has two values, true or false. Okay, and I can also then again write anything inside. So this is basically a list. Now let's say that right now when we are printing, let's remove this print age function, and let's quickly print this again. What it is printing? It's printing only Shash. Now what if I want to print my name is Shash, right? Because just writing Shash, it does not give us a clear explanation as to what this Shash is. So to do that, what we will do is we will use this double quotes again, and we will write my name is and $name. So what basically happened here, let's quickly print this and you will automatically know what happened. Okay, my name is Shash. You can see that the name variable, when I click on it, it highlights here. This shows that they both are same, and you can see that this variable can be written inside a double quote by using this $. This is basically called string interpolation, nothing much. If by chance you are using something which includes more than one variable, let's say I want to check this length of this name. Right now what I can do is print name dot, and the moment you add dot, you see all these different functions. You can basically use them and experiment with them on your own. I won't be covering these functions right now. So when I print name dot length, it's showing me 5. Now why 5? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see that there are 5 characters, and it is showing me name dot length here. Now what if I want to print this here only, in the statement only? So if I write dot length, len, okay, spelling was wrong. Now you can see that the length is not being highlighted, but here length is also being highlighted. This is because it is taking this value dot length as a string itself, like the rest of the sentence. We want to be able to use this as a variable, right? So for that, what you can do is just open curly braces both sides after the $. Now it will take it as 1. Okay, so name dot length. Now if I print this and let's quickly print these, and you can say that my name is 5 is being printed, what we were doing here. Now to, let's say if you want to remove some piece of code that you might want to use it in the future, or if you just want to write basic documentation, you can just use /. This basically unhighlights the code, and this basically tells Dart that you don't have to consider this line or run this line. Now if I run this again, you can see that only my name is 5 is being printed, even though both the lines are here. This is because this is commented out and the Dart is ignoring it now. You also use these slashes to write documentation. So because for big files and big projects, you need to explain other developers as well what is going on there so that they can help you. So right now I can just write here that my name is being printed. So I can basically write anything with these double slashes. Okay, now if I run this again, you can see that only my name is 5 is being printed, nothing else. So this was string interpolation. Now finally, let's look at indexing. This is the last concept in this video, so it will be really quick. I know that this must be a little overwhelming for you guys, but don't worry, it's actually pretty easy. You just need to practice it a little more or look at the entire video once again and you will be absolutely fine. Okay, so let me quickly remove all of these. Okay, let's keep one. Okay, now what if I want to, from the name, I want to print only A. Okay, there are weird people out there and they want different things. So don't judge me. But what if I just want to print A from that name? To do that, I can just write name and 2. Now you ask, why did I write 2? So this is because each element, whether it's a string, a list or anything, has an indexing. Okay. Now for S, the index is 0. For H, the index is 1. For A, the index is 2. For S, again, the index is 3. And H, again, it is 4. This is how basically each element is indexed. Their location is defined this way. Okay, so S has 0 index, H has 1 index, A has 2 index. Now if I save this file, now you can see the moment I saved, the extra spaces were eliminated. This is because Dart removes extra storage that is being taken up. Okay, so you don't have to worry about this. Just remember that S has 0, H has 1. Okay, what the heck did I do now? Control Z, Control save. Okay, S has 0, H has 1, A has 2 and so on. So if I now, this file is saved and if I print name 2, it should give us A. Now you can see that the A was printed. So this is a success. A small leap for mankind, a small, okay, I forgot the quote. So anyways, you guys can mention that down below. Anyways, now what if for the list, let's try this for the list. Okay, so let me quickly change here info. Now similarly to strings, for each element of list has an index. So the first element, you can see this gibberish has an index of 0. Okay, so if I write 0 here and I quickly print this, you can see that the first element was printed. Now what if I want to print the third element? So this will be 0, 1, 2. You can see that it index is not 3 but 2 because the indexing is starting from 0. So now you can see that the third element was printed. Now what if I want to print this fifth element? Now the fifth element will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it was on the fourth index. Okay, so I will save this file, quickly run it, and you can see that this list was printed again. Now you might ask that how to print these separate values in the list. Now I won't be going into too much detail on how to do that, but that is your homework. Learn how to do that. Okay, make effort from your side. I am not a motivational speaker, don't worry. Anyways, so this first video was completed with these concepts. Make sure that you revise all of the concepts because these were really easy concepts. If you have never tried coding, this might be a bit confusing for you, but if you have tried coding, I know what you were thinking, that why the heck am I teaching this? So don't worry guys, just practice it and you will be fine. Now let's jump to the next topic, which are loops. Yep, let's go. Okay guys, so let's quickly see what are loops. Now, what is the meaning of loop, right? A loop is basically a piece of code. Let's say I want to print hello 5 times. Okay, so if I want to print hello 5 times, the basic thought that would come to your mind is that print hello, print hello, print hello, print hello again and again. And now you can see that hello is being printed. But what if I want to write it 1,000 times? Now we can't do that, right? We can't just copy paste 1,000 times again and again. Okay, let's say that if you are a maniac and you will do 1,000 times. What if I want to print it 1,000,000 times? Now I am a maniac. but don't worry, we won't be copy pasting this again and again and again. So what we do instead is we use loops. Okay guys, so let's quickly look into what are loops, and let's start with the first loop, which is if, let me write the basic syntax, and else. Okay, this is how if and else are written. Now let's understand this with an example. Let's say I have a bool boy equals to true. Okay, now I want to print, if the boy is true, I want to print that it is a boy, else I want to print that it is a girl. Okay, so what I would do is boy equals to true. So I'm basically saying print it is a boy. So what's happening here is that if boy is equal to true, equal to means if LHS left hand side is equal to right hand side. You add double equals to when you want to check that both the sides are equal, and you add single equal to when you want to assign a value. So make sure that you do remember this. Let's quickly look at it again. When you want to assign a value, you use single equal to, and when you want to check that both sides are equal, you add double equals to. Okay, and else we will write if it's not true, it can only be false, which means it comes under else. So let's print it is a girl. Okay, and I will write a semicolon. So right now you can see that boy is true, so the statement is being satisfied. Okay, now the moment I save this and I press enter, it is showing that it is a boy because boy was true. Now let's say that boy is not true and it is false, it will show me it is a girl. Okay, so I hope that you understand what basic of if and else is. Now there are other loops such as for and while. Okay, let me add statements here. For and while are two loops which are really interesting, and honestly we do not need them right now, but first I would suggest you to use if and else and learn them thoroughly, because we will be using these two way more than we will be using for and while. Okay, so for if and else you can also do one thing. What if your boy is neither true nor false? Okay, let's say here only I write if else. So this is what is called elif. What if you want to add another condition, right? Let's say what if boy is equal to false. So if boy is equal to false, it will show girl, and else if none of them are true. Okay, if it's neither boy nor a girl, if it's neither true nor false, then we will add else print nothing here to see. Okay, so let's quickly try to print it, and right now you can see that boy is false, so that is why you are seeing that. So for boolean, basically it can only be either true or false. To print out this else statement, what we can do is one more interesting thing. Okay, so let's say I am using a variable string gender equals to nothing right now. Okay, you can also assign an empty string to any variable. So let's say for now I am printing boy. Okay, and I will quickly make some changes here. Now you guys think in your brain that what should come. Gender, if gender equals to boy. Now for boy we need to use these double quotes. True and false are already keywords assigned for Dart, so you don't really need to use double quotes. But apart from true and false, you would mostly have to use these double quotes every time you are writing a string, even in the condition. So if gender equals to boys, meaning if gender has the value boy, print it is a boy. Else if gender, so we will change this here, gender equals to a girl. Okay, we will print it as a girl, else print nothing here. So right now you can see that it is a boy. Let me quickly remove this boolean to avoid confusion. Okay, so you can see that print gender is right now assigned the value boy, so we should be printing print boy, it is a boy, right? So right now it is printing it is a boy. Now what if I am writing here something, okay, GRE. I don't know what the heck that means. So let's say if I run the command here, so it is printing nothing else here to see. We can add multiple else if here. So let's add another one. What if in else if we add, by the way, there can only be one else for one particular loop, but there can be multiple else if. Okay, so if in else if, let's say if gender is equal to none, or let's say if gender equal to non-binary, you can add spaces as well. Print a beautiful child is born. Okay, and let's print semicolon at the end, and let's go with up arrow key, enter, and you can see nothing here to see right now because the value of gender is GRE. Now I will write here non-binary, and I will assign. I'm basically assigning the value to gender, which is non-binary, and if the value of gender is non-binary, you will print a beautiful child is born, right? So I hope that you guys understand the basics of if else. If I might be using for and while in the future, and if you guys want, you can just skip these two loops for now. So guys, let's quickly move on to the next video. Okay guys, so before jumping into classes, let's quickly look at what functions are, because we need to have a basic understanding of what functions really mean and what they are. Okay, so this is the main function, right? This is the default function which Dart runs every time. So the main function is always written. Okay, now what is the meaning of void? Void is basically the return type. Now what do I mean by that? Let's define another function here, and let's name it, let's say it's name giver. Okay, name giver, and I close these. Okay, so now you can see that this is another function. I haven't written the return type yet. So for name giver, we know that names are usually string, right? So I will write here string name giver, and you can see in the problems section that the problem that is coming is that the body might be might complete normally, cause null to be returned, but the return type string is potential non-nullable type. Now what the heck does that mean? This means that because it is returning string, okay, because it is returning a string, we have to write a return statement. So in order to write a return statement, you basically write return and you return some string. So I will return my name. Because the return type is string, I am returning a string. Okay, and at the end I will add a semicolon. So now you can see that return type for this function name giver was string, and we are returning string. But for void means that this function will not return anything. Okay, so void means that this function will not return anything. This means that if I try to write return statement here, it will give me an error. So this means that you cannot write return directly in the main function. So now what I can do is I can just write the function in the main, and I can save the file. And now when I run the file, you can see that nothing came, right? Because it is returning. It's not printing anything in the function. So to print the string, what I have to do is I need to add a print statement here. And now if I run, you will see that string is being printed. Okay, now let me change the text here so that you guys don't get confused. I have written here my name Shash, and now when I pass it, Shash is being printed because I printed it here. Now remember one thing, you can never write a print statement after you have already written a return statement. See, it is sort of not highlighting it, and this is because you cannot write print after you have already written a return. return. Okay, so always you need to write this before print. And okay, let me write here something else. So in the print statement, it's not necessary for me to write a string only. I can either write a number, or I can write whatever the heck I want. I can also write hello. And this time, if I do not use the print statement and I save the file, go to the terminal, press up arrow key and enter, you will see that 3 and help. Okay, so it's neither hello nor help. Let me quickly correct the spelling and now save the file again, and you can see that both were printed. Okay, this is because the function directly has a print statement in itself. So now let's look into what are parameters. This is the last topic for functions, and there are basically different kind of parameters like named parameters, required parameters, functional parameters. Let's quickly look into them. First, let's see required parameters. Okay, so parameters is basically, I will write here a string and I am name, and I will return name here. Now you can see that in the name giver, it is showing me an error. This is because before running, I need a string with the name. Okay, so this means that I want an input from the user itself. So here I want to, I would have to return, I would have to write a string. So you can see the moment I entered double quotes, the error went away because even double quotes is considered as string. And this is an empty string, but even this is considered as string, okay, because empty string. Okay, so let me write here shash. And now let's see. You guys guess, if I run the code, will it print this shash or will it not print this shash? Let's see. So it did not print. Okay. Now if I write here print, and I can write inside name, and now save, now it will print shash. And it is printing because of this statement, not this statement. Okay. I can also return here an integer. So for integer, let's say I am returning an age, and let me print here age. Now you can see that again the error is coming up, and it is showing me that 2 positional arguments required but 1 found. This means that we have asked for 2 arguments, right? This means that 2 parameters need to be entered, but only 1 is being entered. So another that I need to enter is an integer. Okay, so let me add here that I'm 69 years. Oh, 69. We are 69 years old. And now you can see that the error went away. Okay, so these were the required parameters. Now what if I don't want to make it necessary for the user to enter an integer, an age? Okay, so what I can do is just open square brackets and close square brackets and enter a question mark here. And what this basically means is, now this is an optional parameter. Even if I remove it from here, this won't show me an error because now it's up to the user if they print it or not. Okay, so now if I run this command, you will see that it is showing null because the user, there wasn't an integer found here. Okay, and since there wasn't an integer with age, nothing really came up. Now one last type of parameter that we will be discussing is named optional parameters. For name optional parameters, you can just simply remove these square brackets with curly brackets. What the magic here is that now your user will know what to enter. Now if I write age, now they will exactly know that, okay, I am asking for age. And now when I print it, it's 69. Also, even this named parameter is optional. So if I remove it, it won't give me an error. And when I try to print it, it will just give me a null value. Okay, so this was functions. Now let's quickly see what classes are. Okay guys, so now let's look into classes, right? Now Flutter, as I said, not Flutter but Dart, is an object-oriented programming language. Now what that means is that it utilizes classes and objects. Now what are classes and what are objects? Honestly, you will be able to find a lot of different definitions of classes online, and most of them are very confusing. So I will not give you the proper explanation or the bookish explanation, to be clear. I will give you a good example so that you understand classes forever and you will never face any confusion in classes ever again. So let's first make a class. To make a class, you have to write class hello world and open close these curly brackets. Now one thing you need to remember, that whenever you write a new word, because in this name, this is the class name. So this class name has two words, world and hello, right? So whenever you write a new word for a class, you need to capitalize the first word. So here H and W are capitalized. Okay. And now let me rename my class. Let me rename it to student so that I can give you a better example. Now for a student, there might be different characteristics like string name equals to, it can be their name, okay, and then it can be their age, int age equals to 6. So they can be different characteristics. There can be height also. So let me make it double. Okay, double HEIGHT equals to 134.5. Okay, so there are these different characteristics for a student. Now what if I have multiple students? So in that case, let's say I have a student named by Shash who has a different height. I have a student named by Max who has a different height. So for different students, the height may be different, right? So this is basically, the student class is basically the blueprint of what all properties a student might have. Now we will make an object. To make an object, we will just write the name of the class, then obj1, or let's give student1, and again call the class. Okay, this is the basic syntax to write an object. Now what this basically means is that there is a student1 who has access to all these properties, and now I want to give its name, age and height. So to do that, for each student, as I said, that name, age and height can be different. So to do that, we use constructors. Now constructors is basically student, the name of the class itself. Whenever you use an object, this whatever code is within this constructor, that code runs first. So if I write print hello, okay, so make sure that hello is in double quotes, end it. Now let's make a function. So now let's make a function by the name hello and world, and I will just print hello world. Let me print hello world. Okay, let me print world here, right? World. So now what basically happens when I create this object is that all the values within this class, right? All the values, they are assigned to this first student. Now I can access all of them through here. So what I will do is student1. The moment I enter dot, you can see that the age variable, the name variable, height, and also the functions, I can now use them using this object. So let's print hello. Okay. And let's run this file. You will see that hello was printed first and world was printed after. This is because whenever you run a class, and the code inside the constructor always runs first. No matter what the code inside is, the code will always run first. So now let's look into how I can give these custom values, right? Now how I can print name. Let's see, print here name. I want to print the age and I want to print the height. Now how can I print these three individually for different objects, which means for different students? Okay, this objects is basically different students that have these properties. So right now when I run this file, you will see that the name is empty, so nothing is coming here. Age is 6 and height is this much, and hello is being printed because it was in the constructor. Now to do that, actually assign custom values to each student, what we need to do is the same way we used parameters and functions. We will write here first string name. Okay, now we will write int age, then we will write double height. Okay, so now you can see that we are asking for different parameters. So now let's give it these parameters. For object 1, let's say my name is Shash. Let's say my age is 48. I'm an old guy. And let's say that my height is 156.4. Okay, so now you can see that for each student I have different values. Now you can see that this student 1 has these values. I can also use this again. Make sure that the name is not similar to the name of the object is not similar. So I will give it student 2, and now let's say he's Max. Okay, and the age is 30 and the height is 165, a superior human being from me. Okay, and now I can also use this student 2 to access all the values. So you can make infinitely as many objects as you want, right? But how do I use these custom values? If I print here again, I will see that the values which were first are only given. So to do that, what we need to do is, in this code, we need to write this dot name equals to name. Now what does this code mean? This means that the name for this student class which we defined here is equal to the name that was provided here. Now you can also write different, let me make it less confusing for you guys. So let's add an underscore here to understand this better. So basically what we are trying to say here is that the name entered by the user in the first object is now this name. Okay, so the value is now changed. Now if I try to print it again, you will see that first Shash was printed, then Max was printed, because we have two objects here. Let me just comment out one object for right now, and let's print again. So you can see that the name for the first object was printed. Similarly, we can use this dot age equals to age. Let's add underscore for all of them so that it's not confusing anymore, and add semicolon, and this dot height equals to underscore height. Okay, see, it's a better practice to write these values before you call the constructor, so that Dart recognizes that these values are present here, and then it assigns these new values to it. Okay, now when I run this file after saving, you can see that the custom value 48 we entered, 48 is coming, 156.4 is coming. Now let's even comment this out, and let's print a statement here so that we can get, let's print an empty string so that we get that space, and you can see that these two are different. Okay, so print statement was for this space, and you can see that Max, 30 and 165 all are being printed, and we are able to use these custom values. So this was the classes and objects. One thing you need to remember is that in a class, when you define a function, now this is a function, right? When you define this function, it's not called a function anymore. The name changes and it's called a method now. So they both are same, but when a function is used in a class, it's called a method. Nothing complicated there. And yes, you can write a function without a return type as well, but it's a better practice to add a return type, especially when you are actually returning something. Here, because I was only printing, I didn't really need a return function, so I did not give it a return type. Okay, now let's finally look into our last one concept, which is inheritance, and that will be the final concept, I promise you guys. And after that, we will quickly jump into making our first app. Yes! Okay guys, so now let's look into inheritance. So inheritance is basically a mechanism in which one object acquires properties of its parent class. Now what does that mean? Okay, so now let's quickly make another class to understand inheritance better. I will remove this constructor for now, and I will remove these values as well. Okay, so that we do not get any error. And let's give it a name, Shash. Now I'm just trying to explain you the simple concept of inheritance. I will not go into too much depth. So now let's name a class human. Remember that the first letter should be capital, human, and I will enter curly brackets. Now a human, let's say I am writing string gender equals to, let's say this is a girl now. Okay, now what this tells me is that a human, I have written an instance which is a instance of a variable which tells me that this human is a girl. Now a human will also have all the properties within the student that we defined right now. Not usually, but right now a human will have a height, a human will have an age, a human will also have a name, right? Now I cannot directly use these values from here into this class. One method is that I rewrite all these values, but while writing code we try to write as much less code as we can. So to do that we basically use this concept of inheritance. To do inheritance, what we do is write extends and student. Okay, so what happened, or what this statement means, is that now I can access all the properties within the student class in the human class as well. Okay, so now if I try to print, you can see. Okay, so what this means is that now I can access all the properties within this student class in the human class as well. Now let's see how that happens. First, let me quickly remove this and let me make a new object of human. Okay, a human, obj1, I will name it obj1, you can name it whatever you want, and I will give it human. So we made an object for the human class. Right now I only have one variable here, which is the gender variable, and I should only be able to access this variable. But when I write obj1, I wrote ibj. Okay, let me write, oh my god, obj1, oh man, obj1. Now the moment I press dot, you can see that not only can I access gender, okay, not only can I access gender, but I can also access age, height, name, and hello, which are the functions and variables of this class. So this basically means that now I can access methods and the variables from the student class in the human class as well. So if I write obj1 dot hello, okay, and now you can see the moment I print it, use it, it's printing these values for me. Okay, so you can see that I am not doing it by student1.hello, I am doing this by obj1.hello, which is the object of a human class. Now remember that this does not work both ways. I cannot access these values from the student as well. You can see that there I am not able to see a gender variable when I use the student object. So this does not work both way, and this only works one way. Now you can inherit multiple classes. You can now make a class, let's say class a boy by the name boy, and now if you extend it to human, you will, let's see, okay, let's see it in action. Class boy, which extends to human. Okay, and this will, we will say string boy equals to yes it is. And now if I make object of boy class, so let's make an object, let's make boy1 equals to boy, calling the class and semicolon. Now if I use the let me remove this object statement here, and now if I use boy1, which is the object of the boy class, and the moment I press dot, you can see that I can access not only boy, not only gender, but all the properties from the parent class, which was the student class as well. You can see that I can also access hello and all the different values as well. So now let's save the file and let's see if it still works. And wow, it's working perfectly. So this is called inheritance, and this is called multi-level inheritance, because now I inherited not only values within this class but also within this class as well. Okay guys, now the theory part is done. Okay guys, the theory part is done, and now we want to look into how to make our first application in Flutter, because that's what you were here for. So now let's quickly jump to the next section and learn how to build your first application. Let's go.
If you are looking for teaching stuff, education stuff, programming series, application, and Android development, coding skills, marketing skills, presentation skills, stay connected by subscribing. Thank you for calling Eduvvo.